having a hard time getting over that hump.
And we would have to probably go back into history. But from a Dow Chemical perspective, one big driver years ago was the desire to have safe, reliable facilities. And you hear it from us again and again that is a primary driver. So this idea about safety, reliability, predictability, it was a fundamental driver, at least on the manufacturing side. And then we also are a company that's highly governed by a desire to be standardized and disciplined in our approach. And so you'll also see this showing up in terms of how we approach business systems and just overall intent to be consistent. And this doesn't preclude diversity and variation, but it has to be within an overall approach that meets the needs of the businesses and the corporation. And I think that gets into when people talk to me about how do we undertake some of this, ultimately, and perhaps you have to start small and build up, but ultimately it takes consensus around strategic intent and what's important within the company or the subunit of the company and what it's going to take to achieve those strategic imperatives. And it's not challenges we face, it's challenges we still face. And so, one of the reasons that I reinforce the total concept around people, process, technology is that we do have data in multiple locations and in multiple formats. I do think we're good at saying that within a given sub-area of which drives information development and information management, I think we are good at being disciplined across our entire organization. So the appropriate information is developed, delivered. We do still have issues with trying to say, how do you reconcile many different forms of information and get them in as appropriate one place where they can be used to support, for example, better strategic decision making. So it is, like all of you, we have continuing challenges, but I would just point out again that it's this combination of the total management system approach that gets us to effectiveness today is our current baseline, and then part of what we have to do is figure out how we improve and build from what we have.
If you think about, we're breaking down our activities into three main kind of categories. We talk about efficiency, effectiveness, and expansion. Efficiency is all about getting the right cost structure. Effectiveness is all about getting the right collaboration, and expansion is actually information. How do we actually get to set value to the information so the information doesn't get isolated, it actually is a valuable asset to somebody. So your question is more in the middle one, that is around collaboration. The first thing you need to do in collaboration is to embrace some form of cloud, if that is private or if it's public, because if not social, I'm very social with myself, I can be alone, and then how do you expand from that one person to many people, to the whole company, and then to people that are maybe loosely coupled? You really have to take the power of the internet and cloud to be able to do that. How well have we done it? I would say we have a long way to go. We've been tossing a lot about the various options within social networking. I counted up, I think we've done a little over 20 different pilots on it in form of what we like and what we don't like. I think it needs to mature a little bit to really get to the value of what we need as an enterprise. It shows a lot of promising signals that you can really get it working. But in the end of the day, you really have to start examining your policies about how you want to communicate and who can communicate what to where and who and all that kind of stuff. Because what you're seeing in social networking is that the demarcation between what is your corporate side and what is total public side is starting to get very, very fussy. It gets very fussy, and when do people then communicate through social networking? When do they represent themselves, and when do they represent the corporation? And how do you actually set the policy that kind of, or policies, it's not only one, I think, to kind of balance that, and it becomes very tricky. in what it is. We've kind of tackled how to deal with email. And if you think about social networking, it isn't that different than email. It's just that the way you distribute the information is with a different method. It is not from me to whoever, it is whoever that wants to listen to me. So it kind of goes in the opposite direction, and our past policies have not really dealt with that. But we think that it can have a tremendous impact on how we communicate, how we collaborate, how we solve problems, and how we then eventually draw that into some form of a knowledge bank that then can actually have value to more than the people that participated in its original format or in its original kind of endeavor. And I think that when I think I threw out 5 years earlier, I think this is something that will solve itself much sooner than in the next 5 years in form of how we all operate and how we all take advantage of this. I didn't answer you exactly where we are because I don't know how to say that. I would say that we are yellow between a green, red, yellow kind of a traffic signal thing, but we are doing a lot of work on it.
And if I can just use an example, internally I have responsibility for 7 industry business units, oil and gas, chemicals, et cetera. And we were trying to collaborate internally across the globe with the consulting organizations, with the solutions organizations, et cetera. So we introduced this platform, this collaboration platform, and it's based off social media. And all of a sudden, we started to see participation increase exponentially. Content, participation, ideas, so it increased just all of our business opportunities from ideation through collaboration to training and education. And now what we've done is we've actually taken that tool, and now we actually offer that tool commercially available to our customers, and they're using that as a platform to collaborate with third parties, et cetera. So we are using it internally. We're also using that same tool externally to basically bring those communities together. And I think it has a big opportunity in terms of standards and really getting standards to take off. So that collaboration is important.
I think, Sid, from a technology standpoint, especially on the operations side where we're actually delivering on these safety issues, just more information faster everywhere isn't necessarily good unless it's concise, valid, and relevant. But I think the big plus is as people get used to using these social media, things in the past where as a software vendor we think, hey, it'd be a great idea to show this knowledge worker some information. Because we changed his green screen with 3 characters, they're disturbed because it's different, right? And I think now we're getting a user population that can handle the fact that, hey, you might be in here looking for some information on this valve, but we're going to surface some knowledge about that. We might even give you some look ahead of when it might be worked on next, or there's some changes coming, and they're not disturbed about that. They understand that. And if we can get that to them based on their role and based on that information is actually accurate and valid, I think that's going to make a huge headway.
Hey, Sid, I'd recommend also is that I think this is more of a people and process, which your port forward, because there's technologies. I mean, we're enabling mobility on iPads and all those other things with some of the solutions we have, but I think correctly is the policies, the process, because empowerment at the lowest level will give the biggest reward for all of us. And so giving that information, as you said earlier here, is the community wants it. We just have to figure out as a company how to do it better across the silos like you're brought forward.
That's a good question, and of course there are probably some people in the room that were there at the early stages of FIATEC, and I was not. But generally, the way I'd answer the question is, FIATEC originated in part out of a prior entity called the Owner-Operator Forum. So immediately there was a focus on owner-operators coming together in a critical mass, you would assume, and determining that there was a common opportunity to be addressed. So that's a very good inception point, coming, again, derived from the owners. The other thing that FIATEC undertook from the beginning as a best practice is to try to include, and not just include superficially, but include fully all stakeholders when you think about what the standard is intended to accomplish. So you think about owners, EPCs, suppliers, technology providers, academia. So it's been very broad in trying to bring those groups together, and then also from the way the consortium is operated to try to always provide meaningful results on a near-term basis, at the same time driving the strategic result, which has been the delivery of a usable standard. But of course, as has been pointed out, we continue to work on effective implementation. So it's a good starting point. It's a build. It's continual progress, and then it's continued stakeholder buy-in and participation.
Though I would comment, I think the biggest opportunity, which coming from the automation side of the business as well, is that the operations and interoperability used in that side of the business, bringing real-time information to that, is very key. And I think that's something we need to think through and have more owners pushing in that direction. I think we've done a great job on the front side of the E. If we're going into C, there's definitely there, but it's from the operations, maintaining, sustaining, and then decommissioning. And that's the area that we definitely haven't seen a lot, at least from my perspective. We could see more, and I think there's opportunities from vendors out there that provide connectivity through OPC and other types of gateways that can bring that information to that system.